Ladies and gentlemen, what's up? Welcome back to the first official episode of season 6 of the Life's Playbook podcast. For those of y'all who are new to the channel, I'm your host, Quinn Jackson, and we're going to be talking some NFL today because the preseason for the Cleveland Browns is just wrapped up and the regular season is less than a week away. So, next episode, I will be giving out the official week 1 uh, prediction. We're going to predict all the games for that week. But today, I just am going to talk about the preseason, more specifically, how my Cleveland Browns did, some of the takeaways I got, and what I think about Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel and their futures moving forward for the Cleveland Browns. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Again, for those of you who are new to the show, I'm your host, Quinn Jackson. Uh, First things first, if y'all want to join my fantasy football league, I will be posting the link shortly. I'll most likely do that after this episode. I will be launching a TikTok with the link to join my fantasy league, as well as if you are somebody who wants to get into sports, betting, and things like that, I encourage you to download Prize Picks, the most elite sports fantasy app. You can't go wrong with that app. I've been using that app for a long time now. I've made some money on off of it, and you can make some money on off of it as well. So, download Prize Picks, the most elite sports fantasy app. Having said that, let's talk about today's episode. Starting with, my thoughts on this year's overall preseason. I'm gonna be honest with you. I ain't watch a ton of other teams preseason, so I can't tell you how I think about them. But I will talk about my Cleveland Browns because our preseason is over with. First game on the block is coming up, so I'm going to talk about how I think my team did. Obviously, record-wise, we did pretty well. I think we went 4-0. We went 4-0, didn't lose a single preseason game, so that's good. Again, that doesn't really tell us much about the Browns. It doesn't go towards the regular season, so that 4-0 is just an empty 4-0. Doesn't count towards anything really. Doesn't really say much. It does show, however, that we have some pretty competent and pretty damn good backups, third stringers, and whatnot. We have some pretty good guys who have made their name and who have earned a roster spot. One of those guys being Aiden Huntington. Shout out to Aiden Huntington for earning a roster spot. I saw a lot of his highlights. That dude was a dog. I've watched that guy very, very closely. He's going to be a dog on defense. So shout out to him for making a roster spot, as well as some of the other guys who made a roster spot as well. I thought this preseason showed us Browns fans that we have some promising guys on the second string and the third string. We have some promising guys and reliable guys at that, as well as depth in the cornerback room. We gonna have some trustworthy guys back there to help with the depth. But that's not who I'm ultimately here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the two guys in Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel and how I think they did and what their future on the Browns should look like versus what it might actually look like. So, let's talk about it, starting with Dylan Gabriel. I'm going to start with Dylan Gabriel. We're going to save Shedeur for last because I'm kind of up and down about Shedeur. Let's talk about Dylan Gabriel. Well, obviously, I watched his first preview. I've watched his preview against the Eagles, his debut. Obviously, overall, it was a good performance. Dude threw for, I think, almost 150 yards. He did have that pick, and he did have a fumble. But those are some things that we can work out of Dylan Gabriel in the long run if he's still on the Cleveland Browns. Because remember, the cutoff day is Tuesday. So we will be seeing who gets cut and who stays and who has a roster spot across the league. So let me know in the comments how your favorite team is looking after the preseason. What do you think? What are your thoughts on your team's preseason and how they went and some of the standout guys that you noticed on your team? But anyways, back to Dylan Gabriel. I think he's got a place on the team. I'll say that. He's got a place on the team. I think the coaching staff knows it. I wouldn't say we've kind of catered to Dylan Gabriel, but I'll say we've definitely given him more reps in everything that we've done. He's gotten more looks with the first team reps and some of the second team guys. So he's got a place on the team. He'll most likely be on the team post Tuesday. Again, some of the turnovers that he had, we can work out of him. The size might be a small issue, and the limited arm is going to be an issue. And again, the turnovers might be an issue, but those are all things that we can live and learn and improve with Dylan Gabriel. Now, I'm not going to hate on the brother because I'm a big fan of Shedeur. I'm not going to do that. He is a Cleveland Brown, so I can't hate on the Cleveland Brown. But in all honesty, I still think Shedeur should be above him on the depth chart. I trust Shedeur. I still trust Shedeur way more with the Cleveland Browns than I would with Dylan Gabriel. But I mean, I can't deny that if Joe Flacco were to go down and we threw Dylan Gabriel out there, I cannot deny that he wouldn't be bad. He wouldn't be as bad as maybe a lot of other Browns fans are making him out to be. I think he'd actually be pretty solid for us if Joe Flacco were to go down. I think he'd be a reliable backup. Um, but again, overall on his performance in general, I'd give it like a good B, solid B performance for Dylan Gabriel. He wasn't the flashiest, but he didn't have to be. He was smart with the football. He was smart in his pass selection. Smart with his pass attempts. Again, obviously the interception, that's a problem, but those things are going to happen. And I would rather see Dylan Gabriel make those mistakes in the preseason than in the regular season. So there's still lots to work on with Dylan Gabriel, but I do think, again, I think he's got a place on this team. And I think he can be a reliable, solid quarterback. He can be a solid backup for Joe if Joe were to go down. I think Dylan Gabriel can be all those things. So Dylan Gabriel, he's got to be a solid B performance in my book. Very decent preseason, very decent debut. I'm not going to hate on the brother because I am a huge Shedeur guy, and I'm not going to get on him about the turnovers. But hey, as long as the team resonates with him, as long as the coaches resonate with him, and they've kind of already showed that they resonate with him a bit more than Shedeur, um, he's got a place on the team. So Dylan, welcome to the team. I think I can comfortably say Dylan, he will not get cut come Tuesday. Speaking of cut, we got to talk about Shiloh Sanders real quickly. Before I move on to his brother Shedeur Sanders, we got to talk about Shiloh Sanders because this dude just got waived. I got the news a couple hours ago, actually, that this man got waived by the Tampa Bay Bucks. Clearly, he got waived because of the fighting incident with him against the Bills. And I'm not going to speak on that because personally I didn't see the video on that, so I don't really know who's in the right, who's in the wrong. But we all know why. That's why he got cut. That's why he got waived. He got waived because of that fighting incident. Was it the right move? I personally think no. I think they should have kept him and continued to work out some of those nicks and knacks out of him. I think they should have kept him because he's a young guy, and I think the Bucks needed the depth. I mean, again, football-wise, he would have had a lot to work on because he's a rookie. But in all honesty, I think waiving him probably wasn't the appropriate punishment. I think, just talking to the guy and be like, hey, this is the NFL now. We can't be doing that stuff. A nice talking to like that would have sufficed. Waiving him, I think, was just a bit extreme, if I'm being honest. I think waiving Shiloh was just a little extreme, especially because of a preseason brawl or a preseason punch, something that happened in the preseason. Nah, that's a little too extreme. I think waiving him was a bit extreme. But hey, I'm not the front office. I'm not the Bucks coaching staff. Maybe they don't want that type of energy on the team, but that's just me. Hopefully Shiloh gets picked up again by another team. Because honestly, if he doesn't get on another team because of that incident, I think that's doing a little too much. I think that's doing a little too much. But hopefully he can get on another team and he can make an impact in this league because I think he'll be a fun guy to watch as his career goes on in the NFL and he continues to grow and mature, hopefully, and work on his DB skills. But Bucks, I ain't gonna lie, I think the punishment in waiving him was a little extreme, especially for something that happened in the preseason. y'all probably should have kept him. But that's just me. Having said that, we got to talk about his brother Shedeur because now I'm a little up and down on the brother. Obviously, I'm a big Shedeur guy, rooting for Shedeur. I hope he makes the cut. I hope he doesn't get cut on Tuesday. And I'm gonna be honest, if I get the notification on ESPN that the Browns are cutting Shedeur Sanders come Tuesday, I will not be happy. Will not be happy. I already got the notification on ESPN that we released Tyler Huntley, and my quick thoughts on that. I don't really care about that. I don't even know why Tyler Huntley was was brought onto the team in the first place. He was going to get cut in the end, so I don't really. In all honesty, I don't really care about the Tyler Huntley getting released. But Shedeur, if he gets cut, if he gets released or waived or some form, shape of another, I'm not going to be happy. Not going to be happy at all. Now, I get it. Shedeur has problems, and this past preseason game against the Rams showed that he still has a long ways to go, and he's got some clear-cut problems in front of him. But I don't think we should waive him, we should release him, we should cut him because of those problems. I think we should continue to work with the brother because I really do think Shedeur can be the face of the Cleveland Browns for the next 10 years. I really think Shedeur can be that guy if he just gets the chance. And he's only a rookie who was drafted in the 5th round. We've got to give him some time to grow. We have to work with him. Okay, we got to work on him. We have to work with him. So, as far as Shedeur himself, he has some problems. I'm not gonna try to pander to Shedeur Sanders here, but he's got some problems. He's got some clear-cut issues that he's got to work on. For instance, he holds on to the ball way too long. His decision making could be better. His pre-snap reads could be better, and I think his pocket presence could be better as well. I think those are all things that he's got to work on. I understand when he was playing against the Panthers in his NFL debut, he was able to make some of those scrambling plays work, and he was able to get highlights out of them. But that's the Panthers. You're going up against a more experienced team in the Rams, and I get it. They weren't playing any of the starters. But still, if he were to do that in a regular season game, he would get smoked and benched immediately. So he's got to work on getting the ball out a lot faster. He's got to work on his reads. I think he's got to work on trusting the pocket much more. And although I think the scrambling and all that stuff, it's fun to see. It's fun to watch him show off his mobility, and he can make great highlights out of it. I think sometimes it's not necessary, and a lot of times I saw some of his highlights from the Rams game. It can cost him. So I think he's got to be quicker in getting rid of the ball. If he's got to scramble, if he absolutely has to scramble, he should do that. He's shown that he's more than capable of doing so. But sometimes he's doing a little too much. I'm not going to lie to you as a Browns fan. I think sometimes Shedeur can do a little too much to save the play. Sometimes you got to learn to just let the play go. Throw the ball away. Live to see another down. You can't take a sack. And I think that's something Shedeur's got to learn. And if we keep him on the team, hopefully he will learn to do that stuff. He'll learn to get rid of the ball faster. If the play's not there, he'll learn to just run out of bounds or pitch it away. Again, these are all preseason mistakes. So I'd rather see Shedeur make all of these preseason mistakes now and work on them all the way coming up to week 1. I think Shedeur has a place on this team. And I hope the Browns front office sees that as well. I hope they see this as well, because I think Shedeur has a place on this team. I think, again, he can be the face of the Cleveland Browns for the next 10 years. He can definitely be that. He's going to be a work of art. You're gonna have to work on the nicks and knacks out of him, but he can definitely be the franchise guy if we can give him a chance. Come Tuesday, we don't cut him, because he showed he can be good. In fact, I honestly think he had a much better preseason than Dillon Gabriel, and you can call it bias all you want, but I still stand on the fact that I think Shedeur had a much better preseason than Dillon. In fact, I would give Shedeur a B+. Dillon Gabriel is a B. Shedeur is a B+. Again, I think he can be the guy. All right. we shouldn't get rid of him because of anything that we saw negatively from him in the preseason. We shouldn't get rid of him. All right, we got to work on him. We drafted him for a reason. We should work on him. Now, if he does get cut come Tuesday, I know there's going to be a ton of teams that will be willing to pick him up. So, unlike Shiloh, I think Shedeur has a much bigger market for him than Shiloh. But different topic, different story for another day. But again, Shedeur, he's got some problems. A lot of people out there are saying he's the reason why the Browns trust Dillon Gabriel a lot more with the ones and twos is because Dillon Gabriel has shown that he's more NFL ready than Shedeur. And me being a Shedeur fan, I'm kind of inclined to believe them. I've seen the highs and the lows with Shedeur, and I've seen the highs and the lows with Dillon, and I can comfortably say that Dillon's pocket presence, his mobility, his decision making, his pre-snap, it's all he's much more NFL ready than Shedeur. And I kind of hate to say this as the Shedeur fan, but I think Gabriel is just a hair more ready for the NFL than Shedeur. I think Shedeur still has some time, still needs some time to grow and work on his skills. But still, Gabriel is not the guy. Shedeur is the guy. But Gabriel, at the moment, I would trust putting Gabriel in a regular season game over Shedeur at this point in time. I would trust that. At this point in time, I would. If Joe Flacco were to go down with an injury, I would trust Gabriel right now over Shedeur. Obviously, I think the team resonates and likes Shedeur much more than Gabriel. I mean, you can just tell from the starters, and you can tell from the guys that Shedeur was playing with, and the 3s and 4s. They resonate with Shedeur, I think, much more than they resonate with Gabriel. But Gabriel, I think, has a much more commanding readiness for the NFL than Shedeur does. And these are all things that can be worked on. I can't stress it enough that these are all things that I would rather see be done in the preseason than in the regular season. So these are all things that can be worked on, and I hope they do. So I hope Shedeur stays on the team. I think him and Gabriel both have a future on the Cleveland Browns. Gabriel maybe not as much as Shedeur, but I think they both still have a spot on this team. And I'd love to see them both on the team come Tuesday. Because again, if I get that notification, because Tuesday is apparently the big cutoff day where a lot of people get laid off, a lot of people don't make the team. If I get the notification from ESPN that Shedeur Sanders has been 40-ounce bounce from the Cleveland Browns, I will not be happy. I will not be happy. I will not be happy, and a lot of Cleveland Browns fans and Shedeur fans will not be happy. Because that raises the question, why did we even draft him in the first place if we were just gonna set him up to get cut? Why did we draft him in the first place? Again, Shedeur's market is much bigger than Shiloh, so if he does get cut, no worries. He'll probably be on another team right before the regular season starts. But still, Browns, do not cut him. Give him time. Work with him. And please, if this is honestly a setup to see Shedeur fail, cut it out. Because all of us, Browns fans and just regular Shedeur fans in general, we want to see Shedeur Sanders become the face of the Cleveland Browns, and I think he can very much do so. You have to work with everybody, and you need to work with Shedeur. So Browns, keep Shedeur Sanders. In all honesty, I think Pickett and Huntley are going to be gone. Well, Huntley's already gone. I think Pickett's going to be the next guy to be gone. I think the quarterback room is going to be Flacco, Gabriel, and Shedeur come Tuesday. That should be the quarterback room come Tuesday. But that is regarding Kenny Pickett. That's honestly what I think his future on the Browns will be. I think he'll be the next guy, 40-ounce bounce. Again, shout out to all the other Browns players that popped off in the preseason. Aiden Huntington again. Shout out to him for getting his roster spot. Most definitely earned and well-deserved. It'll be exciting to see him be kind of a rotational guy defensively. Be exciting to watch him. Shout out to some of the other secondary guys that I watched step up. They will definitely help the Browns secondary depth-wise, and I think they can be reliable in the future. So shout out to all the other Browns players that made their names and played well enough to get a roster spot. You guys are definitely helping us out, and you guys are going to be exciting to watch come the regular season. Having said that, this has been season 6, episode 1 of the Life's Playbook podcast. If you are a fan of just Shedeur in general, maybe not a Browns fan, but if you're a fan of Shedeur in general, let me know in the comments section down below what you think is going to happen to Shedeur come Tuesday, what you think about Shedeur's overall preseason performance, because again, I think he still had a much better preseason performance overall than Dillon Gabriel, and I think he is still the guy for Cleveland over Dillon Gabriel. Again, I gave Shedeur a B plus overall performance wise, and Dillon Gabriel a solid B. Solid B. So let me know in the comments what you think about Shedeur. If you're just a Shedeur fan in general, maybe not a Browns fan, but if you're a Shedeur fan in general, let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know in the comments down below how you think your team did in the preseason. Any upside you see in any of the young guys. Let me know in the comments down below how you think your team did. Oh, and also really quickly, one other name that I'd like to shout out is that man Jackson Dart. I know I'm gonna be honest. I ain't watched a ton of the Giants preseason because I was so honed in on my own team, the Cleveland Browns. But I've seen Jackson Dart and I've watched his highlights, and he has looked good in the preseason. He has looked good in the preseason. Now I get it. I get it. He's only been playing twos and threes and threes and fours and sometimes twos and ones. But who cares about that? The fact is, the man balled out, so I got to give him his flowers. I, I don't think I was terribly high on Jackson Dart when he was drafted, but now I think I'm not like, oh man, this guy's going to be the next, Eli Manning. I don't even think he's going to be the next Kenny Pickett because I've been seeing that going around social media that Jackson Dart is set up to be the next Kenny Pickett. I don't even think he's going to be that. I think it's going to be way better than Kenny Pickett. I think he's going to be way better than a lot of people are anticipating. And quite frankly, I don't know why a lot of people out there are discrediting a lot of the highlights that he's got in preseason. They're just discrediting the fact. They're just discrediting it with the fact that he's playing against a bunch of threes and fours. And, he's a first round guy. He's supposed to do this. Or, oh, he's just playing against fours and threes. Come on. If we're gonna say that about Jackson Dart, we gotta say that about Shedeur Sanders. Respectfully. If we're gonna say that about Jackson Dart, we gotta say that about Shedeur, because they're both playing against threes and fours. But shout out Jackson Dart. I think he's gonna be good. He's going to be good for the Giants. And if he does end up playing in the regular season, the Giants may have found their guy. May have. Huge emphasis on the may have because, albeit they were only threes and fours that Jackson Dart was playing against, and a lot of the throws that he was making were a bunch of check downs, but hey, the dude still looked great. Everything that I saw on Jackson Dart, he looked good. There was nothing but positivity. Dude was smiling, having fun, and that's what you want to see coming out of a first-round draft pick. So shout out Jackson Dart. Dude was balling. Shout out Ted McMillan as well. I drafted him on my fantasy team because I think he's going to get a lot of touches, and so shout out to him as well. He had a decent preseason debut, and hopefully he can be a demon on my fantasy team because I'm kind of riding on him as my flex right now. So shout out Ted McMillan as well. I think the Panthers got themselves a real one at wide receiver to pair up with Xavier Legette. I think Ted McMillan will be phenomenal if he stays healthy and nothing happens to the brother. So shout out Jackson Dart. Shout out Ted McMillan. They balled out. Shout out to the Jaguars kicker Cam Little for kicking that 70-yard field goal. Hopefully we can see some of that. Hopefully we can see some of that in the regular season because that would be cool, and he would actually get the record for the longest kick made because right now they didn't give it to him because it was a preseason game. So hopefully he can get his chance at the record in the regular season and kick another 70-yarder for the Jags. So just a quick shout out to those guys. Um, Having said that, I'll catch you guys for season 6, episode 2 of the Life's Playbook podcast, where I will be kicking off the first NFL Week 1 prediction. So stay tuned for that. Till then, peace out.